Hey everyone, and welcome to the Stitch Sessions. It's the beginning of a new month, and you know what that means. We are unveiling April's gift of crochet. And in April, most people start thinking weddings, baby showers. So this month, for the April gift of crochet, we're going to show you how to make this beautiful, elegant bridal shawl. It is made up of the Starflower Stitch. It's also known as the Flower of Life Stitch. And it's really a beautiful, gorgeous pattern that simply stands on its own. It's a 4-row repeat, so it takes a little bit of concentration. A beginner can do this. It just consists of chain stitching. So if you know how to chain and slip stitch, you should be able to do this, this shawl. And because at the beginning of the year, we talked about making sure we plan ahead and plan properly for our crochet gifts, we figured April would be a good month to start working on something like this. Because a lot of times the weddings are happening in May or June and July. So if you start now in the month of April, this will give you plenty of time to work on this. This one definitely is quite long, and it's great for, you know, when you're taking photos outside and maybe the bride just needs a little bit of a respite. It's great to wear just around the shoulders here. And I've added a little bit of a color embellishment here with a little bit of pink. And this is done with a finer yarn. So you will have to get used to working with maybe a smaller hook, but you can certainly do this pattern using any type of yarn at all. It's beautiful, elegant. I love the look and the feel of it. It's quite lacy in nature, and anyone can do this. So without further ado, let's get started on our April gift of crochet, which is our beautiful bridal shawl. Okay everyone, so here's what you're going to need. In order to make your beautiful Starflower bridal shawl, you're going to need around 300 grams of this fine cotton blend yarn. Now this is Premier's Cotton Fair, and it is 52% cotton and 48% acrylic, which is nice for just absorbability if you're outside and things like that. And this is considered a fine weight number 2. So it is a bit of a finer strand. And you'll need a pair of scissors as always, and a darning needle for sewing in your ends. And the hook that I'm using for this project is a smaller hook. It's a 3.75 millimeter hook, also known as an F hook. So it is a smaller hook. I'm just trying to see what they recommend here. So they actually recommended a 4, and I went down just a little bit more because I wanted the I just wanted a finer look and the stitches to sit a little bit more snugly together. And then actually I just embellished each end with just a strip of this really pretty bamboo silk blend yarn, which actually I don't even think that I have the label for it anymore. But if you go to Michael's, it's usually next to these types of yarns, the cotton or the cotton blends, and it is a bamboo silk blend, and it is actually just divine to work with. It's a little more expensive, and that's why I just used it as an embellishment. But it is lovely, especially if you want to work on blouses or sweaters and things like that. So I really like how it came out. So there you have it. So I'm just going to show you through a smaller swatch how I did it. So let's get started. So first things first. And I think I did mention that I used 300 grams of this yarn. So this is a 100 gram ball, so I used 3 of these. That will depend on how long you would like to make it. I wanted mine with a bit of length, so I used 3 of these. And I'm going to see if I can find the center pull here. So it just makes life a lot easier. And wow, look at that. That never happens. Okay, and I'm just going to tuck this one in right here. And we're going to get started. So this pattern is done using multiples of 6 plus 3. So whatever length you choose, you want to make sure to chain multiples of 6 and then add an additional 3 at the end. So for this example, I'm going to chain 18 plus 3. So that's going to give me a total of 21. So we're going to start with a slip knot, and I do my slip knot like this, twist, and pull through. Okay, there are many different ways to do a slip knot. That's just what works best for me. So now I'm going to chain 18. So it's 3 multiples of 6 give you 18, and then I'm going to do an additional 3. So we have 1, and I'm going to try and be a little bit looser. In fact, if you want to, if you're using the 3.7, you might want to use a 4 or even a 4.5 to do your foundation chain row. Actually, I probably wouldn't do a 4.5 because it's not like we have to, in this project, it's not like we're working into the solid row, as you can see. So I would recommend using the same hook and just be a little bit more relaxed, or I would go up to a 4, but no more than that for your chain, your first foundation row. So it's mostly, it's actually just chain stitches and slip stitches in this project and a couple of single crochets here and there. So go ahead and chain your 18 or however many you are doing, because remember, this is just a swatch to show you what I did in that shawl. And I'll meet you once you have your multiple of 6 plus 3. Okay, so I have chained 18. And now I'm going to chain an additional 3. 1, 2, and 3. So now I have a total of 21 chains. And as you can see, I tried to keep them fairly even and somewhat relaxed, not too tight. Now what we're going to do, this is round 1, and this is going to be a 3-row repeat, even though we have to do the first 2 rows as a base. Then we're going to repeat rows, I'm sorry, it's a 4-row repeat. So we will repeat row 2, 3, 4, and 5 once we build it up. So this is establishing a round 1 or row 1. So what we're going to do is once we've chained our additional 3 is in the second chain from the hook. Remember, we don't count the loop on the hook. There's 1 and there's 2. We're going to do a single crochet into that stitch. So just insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2. So the first row will be a little funny because everything is kind of wobbly. Now into the next chain, you will do another single crochet. So right now you will have 2 single crochets into your work here, okay? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 9, and this will be the number that you're going to encounter a lot in this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And again, I'm trying to keep them fairly consistent. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and into this bottom loop here. And I hope you can see that. The bottom loop of where I started my chain coming out of the single crochet, I'm going to insert my hook, and then I'm also going to insert through, whoops, to the back of that stitch. So you can see I'm behind 2 loops there. That's just going to help me solidify my position. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch through it, just like that. And what that does is it creates the first loop of one of our, or the first petals of one of our flowers. Okay. Next, what's going to happen is we are going to chain 4. So we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we are going to skip 4 chains. So we've already worked into this one. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Then you're going to single crochet into the next stitch, which would be the 5th stitch. So into that next stitch, we're going to single crochet. Okay. And every time you're going to do chains of 4, it's usually to create separators between the petals. So your chain 9s are usually going to create the petals, and your chain 4s are going to create the space. So we've chained 4, we've skipped 4, and into the 5th, we have done a single crochet. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 9 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And just like what we did earlier, we are going to slip stitch into the base of the single crochet. So that's the front, and I just want to grab that back loop as well. And that's why you don't want to be too tight. And you're going to slip stitch and pull through. That's a little bit wonky there. There we go. So once you've got that established, you're going to go into the very next chain and you're going to single crochet again. Okay, so it'll look like that. Then we're going to create a second petal, so you'll chain 9 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm kind of speeding through a little bit because I'm assuming that you know your chain stitch. And then what we want to do is into the base of this one, we will insert our hook into the back loop as well, and we're going to slip stitch to that as well. There we go. So now we've got something that looks a little bit like this. So in row 1, each side is going to be flanked by a single petal, and then you'll have groupings of 2 petals just like this. Okay, so I'm going to take you into the next one again. So once you're done your 2 petals, you're going to create a spacer. So that's going to consist of chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to skip 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and into the 5th one, we will do a single crochet. And you just have to be relaxed because this first chain row is always a little bit looser. And then we're going to create a petal. So that means we're going to chain 9, 2, 3, 9. And the same thing, we're going to find the base of that chain 9, or the top of the single crochet it comes out of, and we're going to slip stitch. There we go. And now right next to it, in the very next chain, we're going to single crochet into the next chain, and that's really going to give these first petals a nice solid base. Okay, so chain 9 again. 1, 2, and same thing. we find the base of that chain 9, insert, and then find our way to the back loop as well. Oops, I think I might have done that one a little bit too tight, perhaps. Oops. Let me try that again. So into the base loop and then go through there. Yeah, I think I did that one a little bit too tight. So then I'm just going to slip stitch through everything. And in the beginning you might think this looks like nothing, it's all over the place. But as we continue on to rows 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to see how it's going to take shape. So we've done another set of 2, and we want to now create another spacer. So basically you would continue doing this all the way to the end. You would chain 9, slip stitch into the base, single crochet next to it, chain 9, slip stitch into the base. Then you would chain 4 to create a space or a gap, skip 4 chains, and into the 5th one you would do a single crochet and then repeat it all over again. Sorry guys if you can hear that wind. It's we're in a severe wind warning for the last 2 days, so it's just really gusting like crazy out there. So hopefully that made sense. So I'm coming up to the end of my row, my first row. So I'm going to chain 4 to create that spacer again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I will skip 4. Make sure not to count the one that's been worked into. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the 5th one, I will single crochet and then chain 9 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And into the base here, I will insert my hook. Oops. And slip stitch. That's the thing with finer yarns, is they come out so pretty, but they can be really testy to work with if you're not, if your dexterity is not used to it. Now here, I'm only going to keep 1 loop because remember, each end in row 1 is going to be flanked by 1 petal only. So I'm at my end, so I'm only doing 1. And you should have 1 chain left over, which I do. So into that last chain, what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet. So there you have it. This is what row 1 should look like. Okay, just going to zoom in there. So we have our initial base of chains. So remember, multiple of 6 plus 3. So in my little swatch here, I did 18 plus 3, which gave me 21. Then in the second chain from the hook, I did 1 single crochet, and then I did a single crochet into the next one. I proceeded to chain 9, and I slip stitched back into the base of the chain 9. Then I chained 4, I skipped 4, and into the 5th stitch I did a single crochet. And I know I've repeated this already, but you chain 9, slip stitch, single crochet, chain 9, slip stitch into the same or the base of that, and then continue on. So all the spacers are chain 4s. All of your petals are always chain 9s. So the number 4 and the number 9 are going to be used quite often. So this is row 1. Let's go on now to row 2. For round 2, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 6. So I've just come to the end of the round 1, as you can see, and I'm going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to turn our work, and this chain 6 at the end of row 1 will count as a treble crochet and a chain 2 space. So that's what's going to flank each side of this first round here. So what we're going to do next is we are now going to go into the first loop here, which is the single petal we did, and we're going to do a single crochet. So once we work the preceding rows, then this treble crochet chain 2 space will take shape. Right now it's just really loose and floppy. That's a-okay. Next, what we're going to do is we want to start collecting some of our petals in clusters. So we are going to go into the next loop and we're going to single crochet into that space there. So what we've done is we've connected this single petal on its own to one of the ones that were clustered together. Okay, so let's create a little triangle shape. Okay, and now we're going to do is create a spacer. So we're going to chain 4. That's always going to be our spacer length. And now we're going to go into the next loop space and we're going to single crochet into there. And then we're going to go across and we're going to pick up this loop, this next petal here, and bring it in as well with a single crochet again. So now you can see that the petals are taking form together. Okay, so this is going to be the bottom of the full flower. So you can see these are the bottom 2 stitches. Sorry, these are the bottom 2 petals, and these are the bottom 2 petals. So row 2 just is basically consisting of bunching the petals together that we want and creating the spacing, which is those chain 4s. So that's all you're going to do for row 2. So you'll chain 4, single crochet into the first petal, single crochet into the next petal, and then chain 4 and do the same thing again all the way to the end. So I'm going to do that again with you. So we're creating a space. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going into the loop space of the next petal and we're going to single crochet into that space. Okay. And now we're going to immediately find the next loop space and we're going to single crochet into that. And what that does is brings these 2 petals together. So now what we're going to do, remember that at the beginning here we had our chain 6, which represents a treble crochet and a chain 2. Well, we want to make sure that the end has the same thing. So here we are going to chain 2. And now we're going to do a treble crochet or a triple crochet, whatever you call it. And we're going to go into the last single crochet we did here, which is actually the first single crochet of row 1. So in order to do a triple crochet, we need to yarn over 2 times, once and twice. Okay. Now you're going to go into the last single crochet here. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to go into here because this is the base of this first petal here. So we're going to go into that stitch that was created here by that chain 1 and insert there. And now we're going to pull through. You're going to have 4 loops on your hook. Then we will yarn over, pull through the first 2. We'll yarn over again, pull through the second 2, and we'll yarn over one more time and pull through the last 2. So we've pulled through loops 3 times, and that's why we call it a triple crochet. So that ends off row 2. So if I just set this down here for a second and just start kind of stretching it out, you can see, and I'll just zoom in here. you can see that these are the bottom petals of the star flowers. Still might not look like anything really happening yet, but in our next row, which will be row 3, you're really going to see what's going to happen. So we've got our chains, which is the foundation. We've got our first petals, petal loops, which are row 1. That's officially row 1. And these chain spacers and single crochets are row 2. For row 3, you want to chain 1 and turn your work. What's going to happen next is you're going to insert your hook into that first space here, that chain, and you're going to do a single crochet stitch. So that's the top of your triple crochet right there. So that's a single crochet, and now you're going to chain 2. 1, 2. What we're trying to do is mimic this space here because we want to work now into what will look like the center of our flower. So what's going to happen here is into the very first single crochet that we stitched into the loop here, you're going to insert your hook and you're going to slip stitch into that. Okay, so now we're working out of what will be the center of our flower. Now we need to create petals again, so we are going to chain 9. So that number 9 will be our magic number here. Once you've chained 9, you're now going to go back into this stitch here, which is now the center, and you're going to slip stitch into that. Make sure not to split your yarn. Then we are going to chain 9 again to create another petal. And now we are going to go back into the same space here. Okay, so this is now created as the center of our flower. And we're going to insert your hook and you're going to slip stitch that there. Okay, I'm just going to pull that out. So now you should be able to truly see the formation of our flower, our star flower. So you see this chain 2 actually also creates a side petal. So in reality, your flower is going to have 6 petals. And I'm going to show you how you're going to get the 6th one now. So you've got 2 on the bottom, this one on the side, the 2 on the top. And now guess what we have to do? We have to do our chain 4 space. So that chain, now we're going to chain 4 and slip stitch into the center of the next flower. And that will create our 6th petal. Pretty cool, right? So let's chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to go into the first single crochet I come across, which is this one right here. And we're going to slip stitch into that. Okay, so now you can see 6 petals. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, let's do that again. Now, as I explained before, I'm using a very fine yarn, but you can certainly use a medium weight 4. You can even do a bulky, why not? So your work will be a lot bigger in scale, and you probably will have to use less chains for the project you're doing. So if you're doing a scarf and you're working lengthwise, in my case, I chained 90 to create 90 chains to create this width, but it's a very fine yarn. If you had done this in a medium 4 or a bulky weight, you're definitely going to get a much wider width. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about picking out the yarn for your particular project. So we're going to create another petal. So that means 9 chains, and then slip stitch into that same single crochet, and we're going to chain 9 again. And you can see my chains are not tight. I don't want them to be tight. I want them to just sit nice and relaxed. And that's actually what gives it this kind of textured, puffy look. Okay, so again, tension is important here as well. Back into that same space, and you're going to slip stitch. And now we need to chain 4 to get into our next flower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Find the first single crochet, which is right there. Insert, and it's a slip stitch. Oops. And now we're going to create the last 2 petals here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 9. Go back into that same space and slip stitch. And one more petal with a chain of 9. Back into that same space. Oops. Slip stitch. And now we've come to the end. So the end of your row. Okay. So remember that chain 6 that we had done? So that's supposed to represent a treble crochet and a chain 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then what we want to do is we want to find the 4th chain from the bottom, because the height of a triple crochet is usually a chain of 4 chains. So we want to count 1, 2, 3, and 4. So into that 4th stitch, into that 4th chain, you are going to ever so gingerly insert your hook, and you're going to single crochet into it. Okay. And now we can really see our flowers taking shape. And I call this a star flower just because it really resembles a star. Okay, so we've done round 1, which is our bottom petals. Row 1. Row 2 are these connectors, these chain 4s. And row 3 are these top petals. Okay, then we're going to do row 4, which is going to connect these 2 together. Okay. So here we go. For row 4, you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then you're going to turn your work. Now remember, chain 4 represents the height of a triple crochet. Now we want these 2 petals to spread out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go immediately into the loop space, and we're going to single crochet. Okay, so see, that spreads that out. Now what we want to do is create that spacer. So we're going to chain 4, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to go into the next petal space, which is right there. We're going to single crochet, and now we want to hook into the next petal to group those together. So we go into the next one and we single crochet into that. So now you can see that the flowers are going to find their spot where they're going to sit. Okay. Now we create another space. So we chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go into the next petal loop, single crochet, and go into the next petal loop and single crochet there. So there you go. Yeah. So every second row, so right now row 2 and row 4 are really the connector rows to get our petals together and create the spaces. So we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here we only have 1 loop. That's fine. You go into that one and single crochet. And to make sure that this one kind of meets the edge of our work, we are going to triple crochet into that single crochet at the end here. So remember, you're going to yarn over twice, find your stitch, which is right there, insert your hook and pull through. 4 loops will be on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 once, pull through the second 2 twice, and the final 2 3 times. Here is the end of row 4. Look at how pretty that is. Now row 5, you would think, well, technically isn't row 5 row 1? It is, but the difference is in row 1, we were working off of our foundation chains, so we had to be a little bit more diligent about counting. For row 5 now, a lot of the work is done for us. The spacing is already done, so it'll be a little easier. So from here on out, you will repeat rows 2, 3, 4, and 5 over and over again until you get the length that you want. So this is round 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1. And obviously you should probably take notes because there's 5 rows happening here. And sometimes it's hard to keep track of. But if you make quick little notes and then you repeat rows 2 through 5, you'll start to find your groove. So after you've chained 1, you're going to go immediately back into the top of your treble crochet right there. And you're going to do a single crochet stitch. Okay. Now, because this is going to be similar to row 1, we only want to create 1 petal here. So we're going to chain our 9. And then we're going to slip stitch back into that single crochet. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we are going to chain 4 to create a space. Okay, so remember row 1, we started off with a single loop and then we clustered the 2 together and single loop. So row 1 is flanked with 1 petal on each side because then that will be brought in. Okay, so now row 5, remember it's technically repeating row 1, so we're only creating 1 petal on each side to flank the row. Okay, so that means we're going to now create a space, and now it should be easy to see again. We're going to go into that first single crochet, which was worked into that petal there, and we're going to slip stitch. Be careful because it might be a little tight there. And now we're going to create our 2 petals together. So we're going to chain 9. And you know the drill. We're going to go back in and slip stitch. And you want to just be nice and gentle and patient there. And we're going to chain 9 again. Just get my little out of the way there. And we're going to go back into the center there and slip stitch again. See? So we've got 1 petal flanked on the side and then our gathering of 2. We need to create another spacer. So that's chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing about this project is you'll get really good at your chain stitch. And now we want to go into the first single crochet right here, which is usually the first loop, and slip stitch. Okay. And we want to create our next coupling of petals. So we chain 9. And slip stitch into the same spot. Chain 9 again. And back into the same space. And now we're going to chain 4 to create the space. And we're going to go right. So see how there's only one petal on this side? So the single crochet is right here. So we're going to insert our hook there. We're going to slip stitch. And now we only want to create one petal. So that's chain 9. You're going to slip stitch into there. And then what you're going to do is in the very next stitch, which would be the very top of that chain 4, because remember that represents the height of a triple crochet, you're going to insert your hook and you're going to single crochet. Okay, so row 5 is technically done. So now you can see how the flowers are starting to build on each other. Now I'm just going to take you, now it's just going to be a repeat of row 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to take you through row 2 once more to show you again how this is going to connect up. And then you are off to the races. So what you would do here is you would chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and turn your work. Remember, chain 6 means it's representing a triple crochet and a chain 2, okay? Because this petal is actually going to be joined in. So we go into the first petal and single crochet. Then we go into the very next petal and single crochet into that to gather it together. So you can see now how your side is taking shape. Okay, next up is a chain 4 spacer, single crochet into the next petal space, go into the next petal space and single crochet into that, chain 4 again, go into the next petal space, single crochet, and bring the last petal and single crochet. Okay, and now of course we need to chain 2, 1, 2, because remember what we did at the beginning. Chain 6 is a triple crochet and a chain 2, so we got to do the same thing on this end. Chain 2, and now we will triple crochet into that single there. So we yarn over twice, insert into that stitch there, oops, and pull through 1, 2, and 3. And there you go. So this is your Starflower sample, your Starflower stitch. It is a repeat. It's a 5, I guess you would call it a 4-row repeat, even though at the beginning we build with 5 rows. And definitely I would take notes. I would pause the video and make notes of what's happening in each row. And then you are off to the races, and it creates this absolutely gorgeous, pretty design. So that is how I created my bridal shawl. And in fact, I added, I think I said at the beginning of this video, this really pretty bamboo row at the very beginning. So I did the first round of repeats in the white color, and then I added a little bit of pink just for a little bit of a design there, a little embellishment. So gang, I hope you have a great time working on this stitch. It is so pretty and so beautiful, really easier than it looks. And if you have any detailed questions, do not hesitate to leave them in the comment box down below, or you can email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And if you enjoy our tutorials and some of our stitch session conversations, make sure to click that subscribe button and just tap on the bell there so you'll get notified every time we upload a video, which is every Wednesday. So gang, have fun, happy crocheting, and we'll see you next time. Take care.